So in part one we talked about diatonic common chord modulation. But what we will find out is that sometimes the pivot chord can't be considered to be a diatonic chord that is going to work in both keys. But there is a common chord, and the common chord in this case turns out to be an applied chord. So it's a special type of common chord modulation. I call it common chord applied. And what's going to happen is, instead of a diatonic that fits in both keys, we're going to get a chord that is possibly diatonic to one key, but an applied chord in the other key. Or it could be an applied chord actually in both keys. It would be applied to different Roman numerals actually. So that's what we're going to look at in this next section. So first let's listen to this example, which is Beethoven Diabelli Variations, and this is the first theme from the Variations. It repeats. So clearly the piece modulates from C major to G major. So now we're looking for an F sharp, and here's the F sharp, so this is the point of modulation. After this point, we are in the key of G because we basically get the F sharp to persist, as I mentioned, all the way through here. So we are in the key of G from this point on. So if we take this as the point of modulation and we back up one chord, we get an FAC chord, and that chord does not fit. It's the 4 chord in the key of C, but it does not have a typical function in the key of G. Therefore, the point of modulation in the key of C, we would call it a 5-4-2 of 5, a D, F sharp, A, C chord with C in the bass. But it's a modulation, so this serves as the pivot chord, and in the key of G, that is 5-4-2, and then we have it down here moving to 1-6. And then after that, all the material after that is going to be analyzed in the key of G. And so our pivot chord is the applied chord in the key of C, but the 5-4-2 in the key of G. And so you might notice that the point of modulation corresponds to the pivot chord. So since the F major chord does not fit in the key of G, this is an example of a common chord applied type, where this chord, which becomes the common chord for the modulation, is an applied chord in the key of C, but it is the 5-4-2 in the key of G. So the final advice, before saying that you have a common chord applied type, look at the chord before the point of modulation. If it is possible to use it as a common chord, that is, if it fits in both keys diatonically, don't make the applied chord the pivot, so you'll be incorrect. So we have talked about a common chord applied type, and the next type I want to discuss is called the common tone modulation. The reason why it's called a common tone modulation is because a single tone is involved in pivoting from one key to the other, you might say. You can usually find an isolated single tone. In this example, it's here, it's the D. And what we're going to see is that in this example that the D is established as a tonal center. And then there's this pedal for quite many measures here. And then it settles to just the D, and then it goes to this octave D. And then suddenly what happens is the D is heard, and then this is a B flat, A flat. So B flat, D, missing the F, A flat. So this is a B flat major minor 7 chord, and it resolves to an E flat chord. So we have sort of this modulation to E flat suddenly. And therefore we have a common tone modulation because the D in the starting key is scale degree 1. But when this B flat 7 chord arrives here, it suddenly more or less becomes scale degree 7 in the key of E flat. So let's listen to this example. Do. See, D is established. See, suddenly D became the leading tone. So now we listen to a common tone modulation in the Chopin example. So we found that there wasn't a common chord that motivated the modulation, but rather there was a common tone. It was that D. There is one particular relationship that is worth mentioning at this point called the chromatic mediant relationship. A lot of times common tone modulations will involve keys that are chromatic mediantly related. Not all of them will, so it's just something that does happen with some frequency. But not all modulations involving the chromatic mediant relationship are common tone, nor do all common tone modulations occur involving this relationship, as we just saw. We went from D minor to E flat major. But anyway, it's important to know the chromatic mediant related keys. And basically what it is they're just a third apart in the same mode. So if I start with C, a chromatic mediant related key would be A major. Another chromatic related key would be A flat. So this one is a minor third away, this one is a major third away, and they're both below. C to E is also chromatic mediant. This is a major third above. And C to E flat. So if I modulate to these keys, I will have one common tone. So between C and A, there's a common tone, it's the E. Between C and A flat, there's a common tone, it's the C. And between C and E, there's a common tone, which is the E. Between C and E flat, the common tone is the G. So you can use this key relationship for modulation. I ask you to put ones here for E. So chromatic mediant related keys could be, well, what's a minor third above E? G major. Okay, that's one of them. Now, you might not want to say G sharp major, you might want to say A flat major, but that's still a chromatically considered to be chromatic mediant related key, even though that's not technically a major third. So C, E to A flat. Now those are C major would be chromatic mediant relation, and C sharp major also could be called D flat. So they're all major keys, and they're all a third or the equivalent of a third away. So for minor, it's the same thing. We have chromatic mediant related minor keys, and notice that if you're in minor to start with, the chromatic mediant related keys are also going to be minor. So C and A minor, C and A flat minor, C and E minor, and C and E flat minor. These would be the chromatic mediant related keys. Alright, so what about for D? Okay, can you think of what those would be? Well, one of them would be F, F minor, right? D to F minor, D to F sharp minor, okay? D to B minor, that's the third below, minor third below, and then D to B flat minor, okay? I think you get the idea. So how that would look as far as a modulation would be in this example. Okay, I'm showing you that I have a 3/6 chord in C major, and what I do is I isolate the E here by itself, so scale degree 3, then I reharmonize it as an A chord, and now scale degree 3 has become scale degree 5 in this common tone modulation. So now let's listen to an example of chromatic mediant related keys. The first one, we're starting with B flat and we're going up a major third to D major. So that's a distantly related key, 2 flats to 2 sharps. Next one, it's B flat down to G flat. So this is another one, a major down a major third. And again, this is a distant relation. They're all distant, but see the common tone here is the B flat. In the next one, we go from B flat, now up a minor third, to D flat. And the next one, we're going to go from B flat down to G major, a minor third down. And so you'll notice that the D is the common tone, so each one has one common tone. So minor sounds basically the same way as far as having one common tone, but the two keys are a third apart. This is G minor now to B minor. And now this one is G minor to E flat minor. Now there's a flat in the key signature, so this is E flat minor. Next one, G minor. Now we're going to go to B flat minor. And finally, G minor, we're going to go to E minor. Next one, we're going to go G minor to E minor. So as you can see, these are all related by a third, and then the ones that are in major are also in major, and the ones that are in minor, chromatically related keys, are also in minor. Sometimes the third relation is not spelled as thirds, as we showed you before, but the relationship is still chromatic mediant. For example, if you wanted to go from G to D flat, it's equivalent to going G to F sharp. So D to G flat major is equivalent to going D to F sharp major. And so either key signature could be employed, and it would still be considered a chromatic mediant related key, even though D to G flat is technically a diminished fourth. So there are other cases like that. The other one we did was, I believe, we were going to go to G sharp major, and we don't want to go to G sharp major because that has 8 sharps. It's a hypothetical key, so we would call it A flat major. But from the key of E, that would still be a chromatic mediant relationship. So far, all we have talked about use this symbol to show that there is a common something, either a common chord or a common tone. Now the next types of modulations, we no longer use this symbol. We will talk about the sequential modulation. And then finally, we'll talk about the direct or phrase modulation in the next section.